Security wall's intact. And bulletproof. Nobody's getting near the Maria anytime soon.
Mission accomplished, then?
I hope so. Yeah, I am gonna have to call you right back.
Why? What's going on?
You look good. Been working out?
Oh. I mean, you know, a little.
So, you swinging solo now? Or back with your ex?
That's a lot of questions.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I hear that's bad for cats. How about you tell me why you're really here?
I was just waiting for the right moment. Look behind you.
A few days before the release of Marvel's Spider-Man, Insomniac Games released information regarding a DLC for the game, a downloadable content that will contain a collection of 3 story campaigns that will represent a new chapter for the main game with an interesting context. Having Spider-Man interact with Black Cat, one of the most intriguing characters from the Spider-Man lore, having her chased around the city by Spider-Man trying to stop her, definitely started to get interesting. The DLC collection was named The City That Never Sleeps, giving an idea about what it might be presented in the story. The time passed quickly, and 1 month and 2 weeks after the release of the main game, the first episode of the DLC was dropped. Simply named The Heist, the DLC brings you back in the world of Spider-Man PS4, and for a couple of hours, it starts to unravel a new dynamic story that makes you have fun and intrigues you a bit with the way it is structured. Set after the events of the main game, probably a couple of months after Doc Ock's defeat, Spider-Man has to stop a robbery at the art museum performed by Maggia members apparently. During the robbery, Spider-Man encounters Black Cat, who is back in town and is searching for some data drives owned by the mob for Hammerhead, a very dangerous mobster. From this point on, a chase starts around the city in order to stop Black Cat and to protect her from getting hurt by her activities. There is an interesting perspective in this story because there is a nice way to unveil the events of the DLC. The story starts very calmly on a normal night with a normal casual robbery at a museum, in a way in reverse to the way the main game begins with a chase around the clock to stop Kingpin. It gives this sensation that for a while there was peace in New York after all that happened. Then everything starts to become interesting, to become intriguing. Black Cat arrives and Spider-Man's life instantly becomes a roller coaster. There is intrigue, there is tension, there are lies, and you can clearly see that in the way Spider-Man reacts. He does not know what to expect, but he clearly knows there is gonna be trouble. I like the fact that from a character that was barely present in the main game, but had a bit of influence in it, due to the side quest with her cat toys around the city to get a cool suit for your collection, Black Cat takes a more active and direct role into the story, and she is starting to mess Spider-Man's whole life just by showing up. She talks smoothly, she flirts, she manipulates. She is a cat, and the big lie told by her that her son is taken prisoner by Hammerhead is a nail in the coffin, to put it lightly, but also the motivation for the whole DLC. There is a great conflict in this whole episode because it creates tension between Spider-Man and Black Cat and even Mary Jane. This information is totally messing with their heads. Is it real or is it just a ruse? That tension out there is quite a detail in Black Cat's characterization, but also in Spider-Man's, because you see their personalities more clearly when they are face to face with each other. You see a man who is trying to help and protect someone, and you see a woman who tries to do anything in order to achieve her goals. I love how the story is made in a way that presents a context and it totally escalates to the point that even you as a player are like, what is going on? And I also like the way the DLC introduces the new villain, Hammerhead. The fact that you don't see him at all during the episode and all the events are because of him, it gives an interesting importance to the character, making him to be extremely dangerous. The only moment you see Hammerhead is at the end, when the explosion at Black Cat's apartment takes place. The fact he is prepared to go with an extreme situation that definitely makes him lose something, but it makes him get revenge on Black Cat, makes his character to be on a whole other level. It makes Hammerhead to be different from the other villains that Spider-Man faced during the main game, which is a fresh approach to a new threat, a more dangerous villain. And, because I mentioned the ending, I like the fact that it creates this cliffhanger when you think that Black Cat was killed in the explosion, even though with a second before, the game shows you that she escaped. But the way it is presented in this dynamic, fast moment, it kinda makes you think that she was caught in the explosion. And the post-credits scene, where Peter is concerned for her, makes the moment more important. Even after all their past adventures, emotions and lies, Peter still cares for her. Overall, Black Cat is an important part in Peter's characterization. She is the trigger that makes him do crazy things and starts to panic and react wildly, and his innocence makes him to be a better person, a better hero after all, because all those moments make him realize something that matures him. I love how the DLC, even short, enlarges the world of Spider-Man and represents the characters and their personalities very well. You see Felicia being a very manipulative woman who lies and tricks everyone just to get what she wants. You see Peter being scared and threatened at the same time, not only because of Black Cat, but for Black Cat's safety also. You see Mary Jane dealing with Black Cat's interference in their lives, and you see her being affected and threatened by her lie regarding her son. But later, you see her trying to find out where the kid is, trying to help Spider-Man protect and save his possible son. It is an interesting action that evolves Mary Jane's character much more. It gives her a moment of maturity, making her to be more serious when it really is necessary. Even though she seems angry at Peter and affected, she finds reason to understand the situation and deal with it. Also, Peter has some phone calls with Miles too, and you can clearly see his excitement and desire to start the training to learn how to use his spider powers. And the main villain, Hammerhead, the one that is not seen at all but you can feel his presence, is made in a way to totally feel that he is a villain that you don't want to mess with. Another thing that definitely looks quite interesting is also the evolution of the Maggia henchmen. At the beginning of the DLC, they are normal villains, each of them using different weapons. But at the end, they acquired Sabletech weapons, making them a real threat. During the whole story of the DLC, the henchmen evolve along with the situation. Not only do they represent the power of Hammerhead, but if they got so strong in the end, this might be a hint for the player that definitely there is going to be something interesting in the next episode. Those small details that give this feeling of continuity of the main story with elements that add more things to the world and characters presented in the game makes the DLC to be part of the game more directly. I mean, yes, the DLC is part of the game, but I mean that I don't feel like I'm playing a DLC. It is like I'm playing an epilogue to the whole game, which in a way, I really do. The main story is pretty short, I agree with that, but it is not a problem. I mean, I get the fact that it's just the first part of something more, but I also like that overall, the story is not that time consuming. You also have a side mission that connects with the main story, and here I talk about the side mission where you are tricked by the original Black Cat, Felicia's father, to collect some lost paintings that he hid a long time ago. After all, in this DLC, Spider-Man has to deal with Black Cat, but it was never said to be just one character, so it gives a legacy feeling to Felicia's actions in a way. It makes her character have an interesting background. The criminal activities are made to be connected with the Maggia, thus the activities are missions in which Spider-Man has to disarm bombs or to save different civilians from their threats. I like those types of activity. It makes the city to be focused on and around the main villains of the story. The activities are not spread around the whole map, you have like 5 neighborhoods in which the story takes place, so the content is quite concentrated. There are also some challenges, but this time Taskmaster is replaced by Screwball, a small villain from the main game, but to be honest, it is quite annoying. The challenges are quite okay, there is a diversity between them, making them to be tough but at the same time quite fun, with gameplay that forces you to disarm generators in a certain order, or to beat villains using only certain gadgets, but the character, it really is a mess. I understand that she is based on social media and gives this idea of a maniac that will do anything for internet views and followers, but when you play the challenges and you hear her talking all the time, it really becomes a problem. Probably that is how the character is made, and I understand that, but she is still annoying. Overall, the player has around 6 hours of gameplay if he wants to complete the DLC 100%, and it's not that hard to do it. You have elements of gameplay that return from the main game, and here I'm talking about the section where you play as Mary Jane trying to get information regarding Black Cat's son, but in the rest, everything is the same, so it is pretty easy for the player to get immersed quickly into the story. You even have J. Jonah Jameson back to tell you news and his opinion in his own style from time to time. The game can be accessed from the in-game menu and you can choose what to play, the main game or the DLC, so it is pretty easy to switch back and forth between the stories in case you haven't completed the main campaign. There are also some rewards for completing the DLC. There are 3 suits that can be unlocked through gameplay, so I can say that is okay in a way. It grows the collection of suits that you can choose from when you play the game. The suits do not have any abilities, they are just cosmetic, but still, there are nice suits. It's nice to have them in the collection. The first episode of the DLC is quite entertaining. It has tension, it has dynamic elements. It is true, it has annoying things like Screwball, but I think I can see past this. I still don't get it if the whole story takes place in a single night or not, but I don't think that this is a problem. I mean, the context and the atmosphere were perfectly made and you get the idea of what is happening. I think I like the concept of the story to take place in one night. It adds more tension to the context in a way. After all, the DLC's purpose was to give something new to experience in a game that you already had fun and enjoyed its world and story. I think the purpose was achieved. The heist, even though it is short, adds more things to its characters and makes you wanna see what is gonna happen next. As I said earlier, The City That Never Sleeps is like the epilogue of Spider-Man PS4. It brings you back for a couple of hours into the game and makes you wanna discover the next episode to see what is gonna happen. It is a very good idea as a content for the game. After all, if you played and loved the main game, probably you will play the DLC too. I can't wait to replay the next episode. With its interesting context that I really think is comic book accurate and different from what it was presented originally, the first episode of The City That Never Sleeps DLC surely makes the player go back in the world of Spider-Man and have fun a little bit more as our friendly neighborhood superhero.